Hello class. Today I will be giving you an introduction to The Great Gatsby, and I'm going to explain who the author was, the characters, and the main themes. And then we're going to read chapters 1 and 2. And through chapters 1 and 2, I'm going to teach you how to analyze a text. I think it's first important to tell you why we're learning about The Great Gatsby. So I created an infographic here, and I provided the link so you guys can go and see, read about the importance of it. And here I explain through the infographic, The Great Gatsby is now required reading for almost every American high school. The Great Gatsby is a great representation of the Roaring Twenties and the American dream. This novel is considered one of the best novels ever written. It is so symbolic meaning of the 1920s, love between a man and a woman, and the American dream in a society full of greed and lust. And I think it's important to know when the book was published, which was 1925, and how many copies were sold? 25 million. So as you can see just by that number, how popular this book is. Now I'm going to give an overview of who the author was through this video.
F. Scott Fitzgerald was one of the 20th century's greatest writers.
F. Scott Fitzgerald perfectly captured America in the 1920s.
He's also known as the author of one of the greatest novels of all time, The Great Gatsby.
Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald was born in St. Paul, Minnesota on September 24, 1896.
When he was 13, F. Scott Fitzgerald published his first story in the school newspaper of the St. Paul Academy. When F. Scott Fitzgerald attended Princeton, he wrote musicals and also published pieces in the Princeton Tiger humor magazine. Because of his devotion to his writing in college, his academics suffered and had to leave after 3 years, and he joined the Army.
He met his wife in 1917. He was in the Army. He never went overseas or saw a deployment, but he was stationed down for a while in Camp Sheridan, near where Zelda lived. She refused to commit herself until she was sure that he had enough money to support her.
Fitzgerald was discharged from the Army in 1919 and moved to New York City. He published his first novel a year later.
This Side of Paradise was an immediate bestseller and made him incredibly wealthy. A week after the novel was published, he felt comfortable asking Zelda to marry him, and they eventually had a daughter, Frances Scott Fitzgerald.
It was the novel of the period 19.
So I would like you guys to finish watching this video and you go through this presentation. And now we are going to go over the plot. So before you read the book, I think it's important to give you guys an overview of the plot. The Great Gatsby is narrated by a man named Nick Carraway. He tells a story about his neighbor, Jay Gatsby. Jay is a mysterious man who throws huge parties every Saturday. He is in love with a woman named Daisy Buchanan, but she is married to an egotistical rich man named Tom. The Great Gatsby is filled with gender equality, the climb of the social ladder, and the American dream. The main characters. The main characters of the novel are Nick Carraway, the narrator, Jay Gatsby, the protagonist, Daisy Buchanan, she loves Jay Gatsby and is Nick's cousin, Tom Buchanan, Daisy's very wealthy husband, Jordan Baker, Daisy's best friend and becomes involved with Nick, Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress, and George Wilson, Myrtle's husband. The main themes of the novel are the American dream, society and class, wealth, morality, education, love, religion, and gender. So I want you to keep in mind all of these themes throughout the novel. And now, since I gave you an overview of the author of the novel and the characters, I want you to go ahead and read chapters 1 and 2. And once you're done reading chapters 1 and 2, I would like you to click this link. It's a pull everywhere discussion board. And I would like you guys to have a discussion board with each other about the differences between West Egg and East Egg. And you can go by clicking this link right here. And pull everywhere will come up. And you can just respond to this question. And I want you to cite your evidence that you find. And then when we're done with that, I want you to go over the important vocabulary from chapters 1 and 2. There's a lot, but it's important for the quiz that you're going to have at the end of the week. And I provided a Quizlet so you guys can go and practice So you can use the flashcards, you can write them out, you can spell them, you can test, and you can match. So this will be really great and it will really prepare you. And by knowing the vocabulary, it will help you understand the book better. And then after all of that, I want you guys to take a quiz over chapters 1 and 2, just so I know that you understand what is going on and that you comprehended the material. And you can do that by going to this link at the bottom. It's only 8 questions. A couple are multiple choice, and a couple are short answer. So I would like you guys to take that quiz when you're done. And then you guys can take a break if you want, but to complete the lesson, it is important for all of you to understand how to analyze a passage from The Great Gatsby. And I'm first going to start by showing you guys a little video here.
Hack Tutoring presents How to Analyze Literature. Literary analysis can be intimidating to a lot of students, and it does take some critical thinking. However, it doesn't have to be a mystery. First, let's define literary analysis. Analysis in general means that you are examining something critically by looking at its separate parts. So, if you're analyzing a football team's chance of winning a game, you wouldn't just consider their record. You'd also consider the strengths and weaknesses of the players, the skills of the coaches, possibly the weather conditions or the type of turf, even their motivation, like with rivalries or home field advantage. All of these come together to show a bigger meaning. That's exactly what literary analysis is doing, only instead of a sports team, you're analyzing a literary text, like a short story, novel, poem, or movie. Let's work on an example. If we choose to analyze the movie Cinderella, our first step would be to consider what is a bigger meaning of the story. This is called the theme. A theme is a recurring idea or...
Okay, so you guys need to finish that video when you go through the presentation, but that will just help you get a little bit of an overview there. And important vocabulary to know before you analyze are the theme, character, setting, plot, tone, and symbolism. So the theme is the subject of talk, a piece of writing, a person's thoughts on a topic. A character is any person, animal, or figure represented in the literary work. The setting is a piece of literature and the time and place in which the story takes place. The plot, term is used to describe the event that make up a story. Tone expresses the writer's attitude or feeling about the subject. And symbolism is a figure of speech where an object, person, or situation has another meaning other than its literal meaning. Now it's important to know what these words are and what they mean in The Great Gatsby. So the literary elements of The Great Gatsby. The tone is flowery or lush. The setting is Long Island, New York in the summer of 1922. The themes, the American dream, class system, and gender roles. Characters, Jay Gatsby, Tom Buchanan, Daisy Buchanan, Myrtle Wilson, Nick Carraway. And symbols, the Valley of Ashes, the eyes of T.J. Eckleburg, the green light, and the color gold. Now, from chapter 1, we're going to go over a passage. It says, "But above the gray land and the spasms of bleak dust which drift endlessly over it, you perceive, after a moment, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleburg. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleburg are blue and gigantic. Their retinas are 1 yard high. They look out of no face, but instead from a pair of enormous yellow spectacles, which pass over a non-existent nose. Evidently, some wild wag in the oculist set them there to fatten his practice in the borough of Queens, and then sank down himself into the eternal blindness, or forgot them and moved away. But his eyes, deemed a little by many paintless days under the sun and rain, broad on over the solemn dumping grounds." So as you see, they just say the word eyes multiple times. And we're going to look at, so the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleburg are what? They symbolize something. And throughout the book, they're kind of known as the eyes of God watching over and judging the characters in the book. But I want you guys to dive into this passage, and I want you guys to analyze it. And you can do that by going to this link right here. And it's just a little assessment. I want you to put your name, and I want you to analyze the text over T.J. Eckleburg's picture and write a paragraph and support your analysis. And then once you're done with all of that, you are all done with the lesson for today. Okay, thank you, class.